Hello friends, welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to explain how client and server interact. So for the front end, I'm going to take an example of Angular, and for the back end, I'm going to take an example of .NET Core, that is the web API. And the database could be anything. We can assume it is a MySQL server database. So let's start this video. So to understand how it works, we have to understand the flow, how client send request to the server and server process the request. So I'm going to explain you in the next slides, but if you see this image, you can see the front end here. The front end is your client. You can say it could be a browser, it could be a mobile device. Now from the mobile or a browser, you are accessing an application that when you access that application, the request is sent from client to the server. The server could have the backend written in .NET Core, that's the web API. So the request goes to server processes the API, it gives the response back to the client, and client shows the page, or it could show the image, or it could show anything interactive. So let's move to the next slide. And in the introduction one, let us first understand client server interaction in a web application involves the flow of data and requests between the client side, which is called the web browser, running Angular, and the server side, that is the backend powered by .NET. This interaction follows a request response model. So the number one, what happens, client sends a request. So the client, which is an Angular application running in the user's web browser, initiates an HTTP request to the server. This request can be a GET request to fetch data, or a POST request to send data to the server, or other HTTP methods like put and delete, depending on the operation needed. The second step is server processes the request. The server built with .NET receives the HTTP request. It parses the request to understand what the client is asking for. Then the server may perform various actions such as retrieving data from a database, processing data, or executing business logic. Next is the third step. Server sends a response. So after processing the request, the server generates an HTTP response. This response typically includes data requested by the client or a confirmation of the operation performed. The server sets the appropriate status code in the response, such as 200 for success, 404 for not found, and 500 for server errors. Next step, the fourth step is client receives and processes the response. The client, which is Angular, receives the HTTP response from the server. It extracts the data or error information from the response. In the case of successful request, for example, get data, the client updates its user interface to display the received data. In the case of an error response, the client may display an error message to the user or take appropriate action. Next step is 5, which is asynchronous communication. So now the client server interaction are asynchronous, meaning that the client doesn't wait for the server to respond before continuing other tasks. This allows the user to interact with the application smoothly. Angular uses observables and promises to manage asynchronous operations, making it possible to handle responses when they arrive. Authentication and security, which is optional. To secure the interaction, authentication and authorization mechanisms can be implemented. User may need to log in to access certain parts of the application, and the server validates their identity, just like you log into the Gmail. Security measures like HTTPS can be employed to encrypt data in transmit, ensuring the sensitive information remains private. Error handling. Robust client-server interactions include error handling. Both the client and server should handle errors gracefully and provide meaningful feedback to users in case of failures. So, in summary, the client-server interaction in Angular and .NET involves the client sending HTTP requests to the server and the server processing these requests and sending back HTTP responses. This process enables the client to access and manipulate data stored on the server, creating dynamic and interactive web application. So I hope this video is clear to you, and now you understand the how client server interact in case of Angular as a front end and .NET as a back end. So if you like this video, I would request you to subscribe my channel and share this video with your friends. Meet you in the next video. Thank you.